the last speaker, Dr. Makiko Nakamura from Keio University, on the effect of computer-assisted learning on a school in Cambodia. Dr. Nakamura, your floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And my name is Makiko Nakamura from Keio University. I'm very happy to present my paper that entitled The Effect of Computer-Assisted Learning on Children's Cognitive and Non-Cognitive Skills, Evidence from a Randomized Experiment in Cambodia. As you may be aware, then after the COVID-19 pandemic, the importance of distance learning through computer-assisted learning is growing worldwide. Then, however, the existing literature is actually a mixed. Some literature, the research has suggested that there is positive and statistically significant effect on children's cognitive skills measured as a test score. Then, however, several research suggested that there is no impact on student achievement. Then I think an important implication from the prior studies is that simply providing free laptop to K-12 students does not improve student outcomes. And however, more recent experiment in India that subsidize not only hardware, but also educational software have exhibited remarkable success. For example, the Banerjee et al. 2007 and then Muralidharan et al. 2019 suggested that computer-assisted learning boosted math test scores by 0.47 and 0.60 standard deviations respectively. And another important thing is those literature like Banerjee and Muralidharan, the research question of these papers was whether the technology could have a positive effect on test score in the absence of instructional time constraint, because those intervention was some sort of the supplemental class outside of formal schooling. So so that instructional time is some sort of the confounding factor to estimate the causal impact of CAL on student achievement. More specifically, the Linden attempted to compare the test score gains between in-class and an out-of-class intervention in two randomized experiments. And according to their results, the in-class intervention has a large and negative impact on student achievement. On the other hand, out-of-class intervention had an insignificant and positive effect. So such findings in the previous literature open up the question of whether it is worthwhile substituting traditional classroom instructions with in-class computer-assisted learning, which we believe that our paper can complement previous literature. So our question is it worthwhile substituting traditional classroom instructions with in-class computer-assisted learning? And our research objective in this paper is to estimate the causal effect of sync on children's cognitive and non-cognitive skills. Actually, the sync is one of the very popular educational software lately, originally developed by WonderLab. WonderLab is taking full advantage of their 25 years of experience running the cramming school for school-aged children in Japan. So it incorporates adaptive learning and also the graphical interface and the bunch of huge numbers of individual test questions. And this is our experimental design. We just, let me see, our study actually covered 5 public elementary schools located within the radius of approximately 10 kilometers around Phnom Penh in Cambodia. And the Department of Education kindly helped us to pick up these 5 public elementary schools for our intervention, and to examine the causal effect of in-class computer-assisted programs on student outcomes, we ran a clustered randomized controlled trial involving 157 students from G1 through G4 at the 5 elementary public elementary schools. Each school has at least 2 classes in each grade. Students were randomly assigned into one of the 20 treatment classes or one of the 20 control classes. And for 3 months, treated students were allowed to access computer-assisted learning during their regular math tuition, which was based on business as usual curriculum. On the other hand, the control students took a regular math class as usual. Okay, and when the new academic year commenced, I mean the January 2019, students were reassigned into treatment or control classes for additional 7 months comparison. So we have 2 phase of intervention. First phase, we compared the treatment and control for 3 months, and then in the after new academic semester, we turned into the second phase intervention. And in the second phase intervention, we had 3 groups for comparison. The first one is the students who were assigned to treatment classes for the entire 10 months, which means the initial three, and then next extra 7, total 10 months. And the students who are assigned to treatment classes for the first 3 months, and then to control groups for the remaining 7 months. And then our third one is a pure control, students who were assigned to control groups for the entire 10 months. Okay, and we also conducted the several surveys, including baseline and follow-up, and then second time follow-up survey. And for those surveys, we measured the several outcome variables like cognitive and non-cognitive skills and the hours at studying at home. More specifically, we to measure student cognitive skills, we use the new Tanaka-Binet intelligence scale, which has long been used in Asian countries as an age-appropriate measure of young children's IQ, and demonstrated a high level of reliability. We also conducted the achievement test only for G3 and G4 students. There is a strong correlation between new Tanaka-Binet and the math student achievement. And our survey also included a set of questionnaires to measure the student non-cognitive skills. We use 2 psychological scales. The first scale, originally developed by Sakurai and Takano, and student motivation in classroom. And another is the self-esteem, originally developed by Rosenberg. And the third one is our survey also asked the students demographic information such as gender, months of months, and the hours of studying at home. We also use the hours of studying at home as one of the outcome variables. And in addition, we asked the parents of students to respond to a survey, which included a set of questions about their socioeconomic background, especially highest levels of education that they acquired. And the response rate for the parental survey was only 85%. And this is the summary statistics. And unfortunately, the treatment and the control group are balanced at the baseline survey. And then we are going to move on the results. And this is the results for the first phase intervention. The model 1 just the model 2 controlled for the children's demographic variables and also the parental SES. However, overall estimation, the coefficient doesn't actually different between the model 1 and the model 2. So we are going to stick with the model 1 for our explanation. And the computer-assisted learning program for the short-run effect appears to be very successful. So the coefficient is comparable with prior literature like Mraidaran or the Banerjee. They said that they applied the similar educational software to the intervention involving relatively poor students in Delhi or near Delhi. And their comparable estimate, instrumental variable estimate in their paper indicated that the lottery winner treated student scores 0.60 standard deviation in math and the 0.39 standard deviation for Hindi in Mraidaran. And on the other hand, the Banerjee's paper showed the really similar results, 0.35 in the first year and 0.47 standard deviation in the second year. And our results is much bigger than the Banerjee's results, and really similar with the Mraidaran's results. And in particular, okay, let me move on to the second phase of intervention. So this column shows that the result of second phase of intervention. And the longer run effect shows that an estimated coefficient on IQ is positive and statistically significant. And it suggests that a student undertaking the 7 months treatment involved their IQ scores by almost 0.7 standard deviation, which is of course very large. And this result is also consistent with Banerjee's results. And they said that in the second year of intervention has a really significant and large effect of CAL on student achievement. And this part, the persistent, we will look at the persistent effect of the persistent effect here. This coefficient indicates that an estimate coefficient drops sharply by 0.058 standard deviation, and this is statistically significant. So program effect does not last beyond the 3 months for which the student were undertaking the program. So this result is also consistent with Banerjee's. They showed that 1 year after the computer-assisted learning program, the effect on math achievement dropped significantly. And except for Banerjee's research, there are few studies that investigate whether the effect of educational program is persistent. One exception is one randomized experiment conducted in Philippines, who experimentally evaluated the 1 month readathon program, and they found that the readathon program improved the student reading skills. And however, after the program ended, the effect fell to significantly. So combined these findings, I mean the Philippines RCT and Banerjee's and India's RCT and then our results, the initial academic gains obtained as the result of educational intervention targeting the cognitive skills are not lasting after a student leaves the program. Okay, and then we are going to move on the results on the result of the effect on non-cognitive skills. Here is the motivation in classroom. And in the short run, we do not find any evidence that our intervention improves children's motivation and also self-esteem as well. Then, however, surprisingly, the coefficient on motivation and self-esteem becomes positive and statistically significant in the longer run, like this, and also self-esteem as well. And the more interestingly, the effect on non-cognitive skills appears to persist after students have left the program. So it's really difficult to explain, but then one possible explanation of why the positive effect appear to become significant in the longer run is that an improvement in student short-run performance has a lagged effect on students' non-cognitive skills. Because yes?
You have 2 minutes, sorry.
Okay, so because the students did not receive any feedback on IQ and achievement tests measured by surveys, and then they would have self-assessed their own academic competence, perhaps based on their classroom competencies or the reaction from teachers. So consistent with several psychological research, the actual student achievement or a strong predictor of subsequent perceived academic competence, leading student motivation and self-esteem improved. And I think we are going to, I think I mentioned a bit about the heterogeneity. So in sum, we didn't find any significant heterogeneity across in terms of student gender, or initial test scores, or other significant characteristics like parental SES. And finally, I would like to mention some mechanisms. Our intervention is in-class intervention. So we can rule out the possibility that our results are confounded by extra instructional time within a class and outside of the class. However, the one possible concern is that our intervention may alter students' studying habit at home. To investigate this issue, we can use the information from the parental survey to estimate the effect of CA, computer-assisted learning, on time spent studying at home. The coefficients are robust to be statistically insignificant across all models. So our result is not confounded. So the computer-assisted learning do not change the studying habit at home. So, which means, taken together, our results suggest that computer-assisted learning improves students' productivity per hour. So rather than the result arising from increased hour for instruction at school or studying at home. Okay, so this is a conclusion. Computer-assisted learning has a large and positive impact on student cognitive and non-cognitive skills. The non-cognitive effect persists after the program is over. No strong heterogeneous effect in terms of parental SES or the initial test scores. And given the finding that the effect on IQ sharply drops after students left the program, and the return on additional attendance is linear. I didn't explain slowly this part, but probably you can see the paper. And the student must continue being exposed by computer-assisted learning. If school wants to see the continuous effect of computer-assisted learning on student outcome. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nakamura. Questions from the floor? Yes, I see Dr. Fuji. Please unmute your microphone.
Thank you. Thank you for the interesting presentation. I kind of find it a little bit puzzling that in the long run, students have higher motivation, but don't study longer. How do you reconcile these results?
Yeah, that's really a good question though. But at least at this moment, we thought that computer assisted learning increase the productivity powers. So probably the students learning in class is more efficient because in Cambodia, especially for these and 5 public schools, students' proficiency level is very varied. So some students are very high achieving, but then the rest of the students are not. So in that class, the teachers are facing a very difficult situation to teach effectively. And however, computer-assisted learning is more adaptive, so students can learn their own study based on their proficiency level. That's why, the productivity in a class can be raised by the new technology introduced. That's what we thought.
Thank you, Dr. Nakamura.